Hello, lords and ladies. Today we're going to talk about Mussolini's fascist Italy, which he ran as a totalitarian state. Your objectives are already written for you, so we're just going to go through them quickly. We're looking at today the extent to which fascism is going to challenge democratic tradition. We're also going to identify and discuss the features of a totalitarian state, as well as being able to explain the basic beliefs of fascism. So all of these things are important elements of what you need to know about Mussolini's Italy. So when we look at fascism and challenging democratic traditions, basically what that means is democratic traditions, meaning people voting, people having freedoms and individual rights, and to what extent fascism counteracts that. Okay, so that's what we're really looking at. The man that we're going to look at today who came to power in Italy is named Benito Mussolini. Mussolini came to power illegally, which some people are surprised to realize. He came back to Italy from World War I. He had done well in the military and was respected and looked at as powerful because of that. He came back to an Italy in shattered tatters, and they had expected to gain more territory due to Allied promises that they had gotten from Britain and France, but they didn't. The Russian Rev had inspired communists in Italy to kind of start rising up. Trade was decreasing, taxes were going up, and the government in general had a king and it was very weak. This is the fasces. This is what he took. It's the symbol of the fascist party, and it's a bundle of sticks that are tied around an axe. It was reflecting back on Roman glory, the idea that this was a symbol of power in ancient Rome. So his ideas and the beliefs of fascism that we have to look at are extreme nationalism, belief that the state is superior to all other states, all other countries, and that the job of the citizens are to build the greatness of the country. He believed in totalitarian government, where the state is the most important thing in anyone's life. It's above any individual, so the state means more than any individual in it. He believed in a single-party state where you have only one political party, and in this case, it will be the fascist party. A fascist state also seeks to be economically self-sufficient so that they don't have to rely on the outside world for anything, and they can produce and distribute all of the goods and services that they're going to need. So he does allow capitalism in the country, but it is government controlled. So if he decides, Mussolini, that the metal for the country would be better served in making jeeps for the army rather than cars for the people, then that's what's going to happen. The cornerstone of fascist thought, though, is this idea of military strength and violence, that you must use your military to assert your power and to prove that you are the strongest. So Mussolini goes with this extreme nationalism when he forms his fascist party. He uses his henchmen, the black shirts. They're like his secret police. He used them to go out in the streets and beat up all of the communists that were rioting. And he comes to power because he is the one who's been creating order in Italy for so long, and the people start to actually look to him as opposed to the government. So he has tremendous support by 1922, so within 3 years of the formation of the party, he's threatening the king, King Victor Emmanuel III. He's threatening him that he's going to march on Rome and take over the country. So Victor Emmanuel actually asks Mussolini to be the prime minister. He comes into power completely legally, which is something that most people don't realize about all of these fascist dictators that we're going to speak of, that they come to power completely legally. Now the picture that you're about to see is of Mussolini, and Mussolini kind of showing you that intense nationalism that he believed in. You got the Italian flags in the background, he's above the people, that whole cult of personality that we see with these fascist dictators. One sign that I came across in my research showed you there, warning fascism, free thinking is strictly prohibited, you're beaten for it. So that is true of the time. You are not encouraged to think independently or to think only of how you can serve your state. We just said that all fascist states are totalitarian states, so we want to go back and look at what that means. We talked about it when we talked about the Soviet dictator. I'm hoping you remember. Joseph Stalin. He decided that he was going to organize his state as a totalitarian government, and a government that is totalitarian means that it takes total centralized control over every aspect of public and private lives of the citizens, that every single thing that they do is really regulated by the government, even down to the type of art that they're able to see, the kinds of religions that are acceptable for the society. So keep that in mind. Totalitarian, you should see that word total in there. Total control over the lives of the people. So really, when you saw that sign about fascism, it's all about fear and ruling through fear, and that people are too scared to do anything against what the government wants them to do, because the government, once again, has total control. So when we talked about this with Stalin, we looked at all of the tools that dictators use to set up their totalitarian states. First tool that we should look at, and that we're going to see Mussolini use with particular skill, is this tool of the secret police. Secret police is essentially his henchmen for spying on the people and rooting out any opposition that is coming his way. So anybody who's against him, anybody who he even thinks could be against him, he's going to have arrested and possibly even executed. In Mussolini's world, there's the OVRA, the OVRA, and the black shirts. So the black shirts are the early stages, the OVRA is what it becomes, kind of like Stalin with the Cheka and the KGB. Again, single political party controlling the entire government. In Italy, that will be the fascist party. Mussolini is a master of censorship, which you guys will see when you read through and look at the piece that I give you in class, but he is a master of it. Controlling the media, propaganda, showing people only the things he really wants them to see, and portraying this image of himself as a Superman who can do anything and is the best at it and will lead them back to that glory that was Rome, you know, back in ancient times when the Roman Empire was the strongest in the world. He does a lot to go back to that, including that fasces as a symbol. Here's a picture of Mussolini with the black shirt, so you can see him there, and that's the group of men that he would have go out and beat up the communists in the streets when the government wasn't able to do anything about them. It's really one of the ways he gained so much clout and so much power and so much popularity with the people. The other fascist totalitarian state features that we want to look at are going to deal with the young people and how they tend to brainwash the young people. Okay, and how they tend to try to get them to believe the ideas of fascism and really grow into that, and so that that's all they've ever known. You start training them young. It's called indoctrination, where you basically try to program them, brainwash them into thinking what you want them to think. The best possible use of this is made by all of these fascist dictators, because they set up the schools, they rewrite the textbooks, all of it is going to portray their beliefs. They set up youth groups that these kids go to after school with activities that are fun for little kids. What little boy doesn't want to go out and play army in the woods and learn how to camp and do all of these things, and then they kind of indoctrinate them with their ideas while they're doing it. They use that propaganda to try to keep the people loyal to the ruler. Mussolini's a master of this. And again, we'll look at that more closely in class. In fascist Italy, you don't question your ruler. You have complete obedience to the leader at all times. If you say anything remotely against him, you're subject to arrest, imprisonment, and even worse. So you do not question him. Just like what we saw with Stalin. When the kulaks questioned Stalin in Ukraine and went against collectivization, remember, he starved them out. In Italy, he wants to control the religion. He actually does work with the Catholic Church. And so that's something that you don't see in Russia, because we see that Stalin actually persecuted the religious leaders and ended up making the official state religion atheism. So that's not quite the same. He does work with the Catholic Church. We know that in a fascist state already that the individual means nothing. only in as much as he can do for the state. So the needs of the country are more important than any individual's needs. That's where you start to forfeit your rights and your freedoms. Here's a picture of Mussolini standing amongst his balilla. The balilla is the young men's group, youth group that they would go to after school, 2 and 3 hours a day after school, learning how to camp, similar to what we would say the Boy Scouts do today. Camping, survival skills, things like that. Here's another one, Il Duce, as they called Mussolini, standing with a young little man in his youth group. And just, you see that this is propaganda. The kid's looking up at him with adoring eyes. Mussolini's standing there in his military uniform, touching the kid gingerly. And then you see here another group of the balilla, the boys all lined up like little soldiers, which is exactly what they were meant to be. Women here were they were called to fight the battle for motherhood. They were supposed to have children, and those children would then provide soldiers for Italy, and that was the whole goal. You see Mussolini here with Hitler. Hitler watched Mussolini come to power, and he's going to look at what Mussolini did and emulate him and start to kind of follow his beliefs. And this friendship is actually going to hurt Hitler once we get involved in World War II, but we'll take a look at that more closely when we go there. But as again, you should see the totalitarian influence, and you should see that Italy, under this totalitarian influence, is a very difficult place to live. And we'll talk about it more in class. Thank you.